4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Banji, do you want to introduce first, or should I just open this?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome back to this next Ordinary People Achieving Impact session. So this is will be the last session for this Ordinary People Achieving Impact. And we already have our distinguished speakers in here. We already have Tania and Fatun in here, and our lovely moderator, Irshad, that will be moderate this session. And next week we will have last session of Ordinary People Achieving Impact. We will launching our small toolkit and also knowledge website. So because we want to making sure that we will get a really explosive and really insightful session, I give to Irshad the time to introduce our speaker and starting our session of ordinary people achieving impact.
All right, thanks so much, Banji. And hi, everyone. So today with me, I have two very, very special guests who will be talking about the topic of sparking community action. So rather than me giving an introduction to the speakers, maybe I'll let the speakers give their little introduction one by one. So Tanya, do you want to go first? Like, tell us who you are, like what you do, where you're based right now.
Let me unmute yourself. Hi, everyone. Very, very honored to be here with everyone. I am Tania, based in Bangkok, Thailand most of the time, but we're lucky here in Thailand. We don't have a lockdown yet, so I'm off on the beach. And I work in the field of education development, mainly in for STEM fields, for science, technology, engineering, and math, and digital skills, but also mainly looking at the soft skills aspect of these subjects.
All right. So, what organization do you work for? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about, what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Currently, I work with DAI. It stands for Development Alternatives Incorporated. It's a global organization looking at international development. And on a day-to-day basis, I am a program manager looking at our programs on the ground on cybersecurity, on digital skills, and raising awareness for citizens on the importance of these skills.
Cool. So cybersecurity, digital skills, and things related to STEM, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Fatun, how about you? Like, you want to tell us who you are, where you're based, and like what you do?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for Irshad and Evandri for this opportunity. My name is Fatun. Well, professionally, I'm working at FHI 360, one of the NGO that focus on health. Basically, my project is focused on HIV programs in Jakarta. But actually, I'm from Aceh, the western part of Indonesia, in Sumatra. So I established my own NGO named The Leader in 2012 in Banda Aceh. So we focus on youth development. So this is really something different because my background as medical doctor, but at the same time, I also focus on the youth development, capacity building, and peace building in Indonesia. So mostly we train youth for their capacity buildings.
Very cool. Okay, so Fatun, like we're going to stay with you on that point. So tell us a little bit more about. So in this case, the ordinary people that we are talking about are the youth within Banda Aceh. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do with them, what kind of youth development do you do, and what are some programs you've kind of done within the youth community over there?
So in The Leader, we work with youth age 15 to like 25, and we try in the leader. Our main program is named Dream Maker. We try to bridge the youth. Well, when we talk, mostly people like when they talk about dreams, it's basically the results at the end, but rarely people talking about how to get or to achieve your dreams. So in the leader, we try to make to provide youth with their capacity building so they can achieve this their goals or their dream in the future. For example, we provide them with leadership skills trainings, and also public speaking skills, and organizational management, or other skill that really useful for them. So in the future, they can establish their own skill. They have the skill that they can use in the future, even when after they graduated after high school or in college. So that's what we do in Banda Aceh.
And just as a small point of curiosity, like how do you balance between doing this, being a medical doctor, and also running or being like heavily involved in a medical NGO that's specifically working within HIV?
So, well, that's a really interesting question. Actually, I started this NGO when I was in med school. So at that time, it was in 2012. At that time, I tried to. I started this NGO with my friends, but at the same time, as the co-founder, I also my role also as the executive director, so as the leader in the leader. So I try to balance mostly in med school. I have to study like from Monday to Friday, and then on the weekend I really focus on the leader. So I try to keep like 5 or 8 hours in a week for the leader. So I really focus in the leader, like how to create the proposal for the grants, or maybe creating the curriculums, or maybe like modules for the training. So and then I train other team or my team so that they can deliver the curriculum itself. So basically, I try to empower my teams, or influence my team to become the leader, as act as the leader also, so they can train other people. So that's what I try to do when the first time I started the leader. Yep.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions that I can get into that with regards to how that actually creates a community, and like they are clearly taking action. But before I go deeper into that, let's go back to Tanya. So for you, Tanya, like who do you work with mainly? Like who are the ordinary people that you deal with on a regular basis?
Technically, my project has to deal with tech companies and universities with the instructors themselves. But I realized that if we want, our end goal is to equip the youth with skills, we needed to work with the youth directly. So I also started an initiative within my organization called Skills to Work to help ordinary youth become leaders so that they can go on and teach their peers about what they learned from our program as well.
All right, so to dig into that a bit more, right? So like on the one hand, there's a like the main stakeholders that you kind of work together with are like the people within the universities, and like the instructors that are those that work with youth that you train. But on the other hand, when you're teaching both cybersecurity as well as like digital skills STEM, like you work directly with the youth. Like, is there any like how would you describe this as a community? Like, what are the interactions like? How do they kind of come together, and what is the outcome of that interaction that you've seen while working on this on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I would love to answer that question. That's a question very close to my heart, because our project mandate is that we work with the top down, like big tech companies or the deans of universities, train the biggest, the longest holding instructors in the universities, in hope that this will be a trickle down effect of skills. But we wanted to kind of couple it down, both top down and bottom up approach, so that everyone drives this together. So we engage with younger instructors as well, and also youth themselves in university, so that they're all there's a buy-in from all sides, and it's not someone telling someone what to do, but it's a collaborative effort and a co-creation process.
Right. So I'm going to go back to Fatun first to kind of look into how the community kind of comes together in. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the leader rather than like on your work as a medical doctor and within the HIV space. So in the leader, right, like how has a community kind of materialized? Like has it had parallels to what Tanya has just mentioned with regards to like the trickle down effect, or are the initiatives that kind of come out after they go through programs, are they a little bit more ground up? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, in the leader, actually, we apply, like, we call it as collective leaderships. So we name ourselves as the Power Rangers because it's a really nice concept that we apply for the youth. Because we believe in the leader, like each of our member, they have their own power, superpower. So for example, like my superpower is in youth development and developing curriculum. So that is my superpowers. So with this superpower, I really focus on the youth developments and developing curriculum. So that's with this superpower I can share with other member or other teams. So it also happens with other member. For example, there is my friend in the leader. His name is Hijrah. He's he focus on entrepreneurship. So and then with his programs, so I can learn some things from his superpower. So this is what we call collective leaderships, because in the leader we don't really have a leader uh, uh, in the top positions, but we have like the same power as the member of the leader. So I think in the leader we try to build a community based on our strengths itself.
So on the topic of like what I would call shared leadership per se, like are there any trade-offs that kind of happen between having everyone kind of be a leader in their own right versus like having someone that is kind of on top? Like do you want to expand more on that?
Yeah, because well, basically on the paper, my name is as executive director as a top leader, but it's only happen. It's only for the paper or administration stuff. But on the projects or in the field, that basically we focus on this collective leaderships, or we call it as horizontal leaderships. So I have my own voice, or I'm able to conduct any projects that I want in the leader. So this is the same right. Also, other 30 members of the leader have. They also have the same right to conduct their own projects based what their passions, their backgrounds, or what they want to do for their own community. So that's what we call in the leader as horizontal leaderships.
Fascinating. So they actually have the freedom and flexibility to be able to anchor their own initiatives, like if they do choose to.
Exactly. So in the leader, like we have, there's journalist, medical doctor, also entrepreneur. So there's many people in the leader with different backgrounds.
All right, so I'm going to jump back to Tanya on this. So for Tanya, for you, right? My understanding that I like based on what you've described with the activities that you're doing, like there are big corporations and companies working together with universities. There's also a second layer of instructors that are well versed in digital skills, cybersecurity, and then there are youth that are kind of learning these core skills. So can you tell me a little bit about what's the hope of them actually learning these skills? Like what's the so on the immediate actionable side, like is it for them to get jobs within this sector, or is the awareness so that like they will be able to explain to people around them that like cybersecurity is important, for example? Like do you want to expand a little bit more about what's the kind of action that comes out of like the whole interaction?
Okay, I can share one initiative on my previous project. the initiative was called Youth, like Skills to Work for Youth. And we did this initiative as a toolkit at first because we found after interviewing lots of different employers that lots of youth have great skills, but they don't know how to communicate it out. They don't know how to tell their own stories and their own value. And at first, the program was designed in a way that the instructors had to teach the youth these skills and the youth just absorbed it. It's a one-way street. And so what we wanted to change was that the youth become leaders themselves too, and then they can gain these skills to teach other youth within their networks so that they also become employable and gain leadership skills in the process of teaching their peers.
Has that process kind of been, so that the whole literally peer-to-peer teaching process, like has it been formalized in any way, and like what have you observed has come out of like an initiative like that?
So when we piloted this initiative, we did it in Vietnam. We gave them a toolkit, and at first we facilitated this session to them. Gradually, we let them co-facilitate these sessions with their peers. And at first, they're like, no way I can facilitate this with my friends. I don't know. I've never gotten a job. How can I teach people how they can get jobs? But then after lots of encouragement and co-facilitating together and letting them try it out, by the end of a 2-week period, they're like, we asked them, can you facilitate this for your peers for like 50 people in Vietnamese, right? So they're like, easy. Of course we can do it. We've done it already.
I mean, that's fascinating. So like on like a few dimensions, like on the one hand, there's the knowledge diffusal that goes from one person to another person, which in a sense, like I assume makes people kind of feel empowered that like, yeah, they are part of that knowledge building process for other people. But at the same time, through that initiative, people are actually gaining that confidence, not just that they are technically competent, but they can actually be the ones that like train others like that. So it's both a hard skill and a soft skill action that's kind of being taken over here.
Right, exactly. And just seeing their progress from like, no way I can do it to, of course I can do it, just because they've had exposure to do it over and over again. And I think that's key for ordinary people to become leaders, that they get some chances to try this out and see if it works.
All right. So I'm going to ask one more question that, quite frankly, wasn't on the script. So before we go into like the more general questions about what you guys perceive to be impact and stuff, like, so open question, like if you don't have an answer, don't worry about it. If there was to be a level up version, or like assuming like resources are not an issue within like the organization or initiative that you're pushing forward, like what do you see as like the next logical step, or like the if you were to go 10 steps up, like you can choose how many steps you want to go, like what does like an expanded impact of the initiative that you're pushing kind of look like in your perspective?
Is it still me?
Both or
for both, like for either of you.
you
like
can go first, Tanya.
Okay.
I kept it open because I know that it's not on the script and like it's a bit of a harder question. I am curious to know if you were to really push it to its maximum, like how would it look?
I love this question because we're kind of right now doing it with my current project. We're training youth not only in the confidence that they can deliver things, but training them in media and virality, like how to engage not just people within their community, like offline, but also go online. How do you engage hundreds of thousands of people in issues that you're really passionate about, whether it's cybersecurity or it's employability? How do you get your voice out there in the world, and which is particularly helpful in the context of COVID-19.
Interesting. So the way that there's a logical expansion to what you're currently doing is more horizontal, like to cover more topics and like to get people to actually teach others like different topics and stuff. All right, that's cool. And Fatul, what about you? Like any
interesting, Tanya. Well, for me, actually, we have been talking about this the next level of the leader with my teams, like in the past 2 years. Currently, we have trained or reached more than 6,000 youth in Indonesia, but mostly the youth is come from the Aceh province, in our province. But we see this problem what the youth face in Aceh is also happen in other provinces in Indonesia. So what we wanted is like maybe next year or in the next 2 year or maybe in next 5 year, we want to see our programs like Dreammaker or other training or other capacity building training that also we can conduct not only in Aceh but also in other provinces in Indonesia. Mostly, probably like we can conduct this training or Dreammaker training in the eastern part of Indonesia, or maybe in Papua, in Kalimantan, in Sulawesi, that we want. Well, maybe one day we can travel all around Indonesia to conduct this training, so that what we see in the future for the leader.
Interesting. So like the next step is basically making this movement go beyond where it started from Aceh to go to other parts of Indonesia.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely.
All right. Cool, guys. Like I really appreciated you guys sharing so much about your initiatives as well as your aspirations for them. So what we're going to go into now is something that we do for all these sessions because we find these kind of questions fun, or at least I find it fun. I don't know whether Vandri finds it fun. But right now, like we kind of want to go into more philosophical questions regarding impact. What are your views on it, as well as if you have any resources that you want to share, like we'll go into that. So let's go one by one. So I want to ask, in terms of like ordinary people creating an impact, like are there any core principles or beliefs that you guys have with regards to what impact means, or like how people can create an impact? So this question doesn't have to be specifically related to your initiative. Like it can be a little bit more general, like your personal point of view on this. Maybe
Sorry,
I can.
who is this addressed towards?
No, okay. So from here on, like it's just general questions. Like whoever has an answer can kind of go first. Maybe I should rephrase the question. I realized that it's
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any core principles of impact that you guys have? Like anything, like if you're trying to create an impact, like you must think about this thing. And is there something that you wish other people knew more about impact?
So, basically, in the leader, there's a tagline in the leader. We call it this. We also put this also as our hashtag in our social media. Everyone can be a leader, and also there's the hashtag or our tagline: "Dream it and make it happen." So this both tagline, we try to campaign this both tagline. First is everyone can be a leader. So we believe that every youth have their own potentials to become a leader in their own community. So what they need is only a change, and also maybe inspirations or a role model. So that's what we try to provide for them. They want to become their own leader in their own community, but the problems sometimes many of the youth that they don't know how. So what we want to try to do is we want to help them. We want to provide them the way to become a leader in their own community. And the second one, our tagline is dream it is make it happen. And we want the youth in Aceh. Basically, well, most of you know Aceh is like we have like 20 years prolonged conflict on that times, and then 16 years ago there was a tsunami in Aceh. So at this time, youth was like we have lack of informations, including like how to participate in national events, or maybe, for example, is like to participate in international forum at conference and others. So what we want is for a Chinese youth to dream big, for them to participate in these events, so they can see the bigger picture, and when they go back to their own community, they can build some things, or they can bring the impact for their own community. That's what we try to help the youth in Aceh.
Interesting. So if I were to kind of pull out some core principles from that, it seems like one thing that you strongly believe in is that everyone has the capacity to actually lead. But more than that, if the main thing that people need to do in order to take impact is to take action first. And that action doesn't necessarily have to be a direct initiative that solves a problem. It can be an experience where that person learns and brings back something that can eventually help the community or help other people that may not have had the ability to go for that experience.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So Tanya, any thoughts on your side? Like anything at all?
I think Tanya is still
Sorry,
mute.
my audio just went out for a bit. So if you can direct all questions to Fatun for a moment.
Actually, okay. So what we can do now is we can go a little bit more specific. So the last question basically talked about high level thoughts with regards to what it takes to drive impact. But moving down a bit, within your own countries, are there specific issues or larger areas that you feel is actually a lot more urgent that you personally want to see more people taking some sort of action on? So Fatun, I think you may need to take this question first. Tanya seems to have some issues.
I'm back, but Fatun, please go ahead.
Okay, for actually in my point of view, that I can see is there's actually it's based on my backgrounds. Like the first one is in health sector. We need more youth or like people that concern more on the health issue, or maybe conducting programs on the health issue that based on the community level. And the second one is the youth capacity itself, because we see that what we try to solve in Aceh is not only happen in this province, but also it's also happen in other provinces in Indonesia, in Papua, in Sulawesi, in Kalimantan, or maybe in Java itself. So in my point of view, I wanted that youth to have their own leadership skill or capacity building skill that this is can be like the major skill that in the future they can build their own community or they help their own community. So that's what I see.
So mainly issues related to health as well as youth capacity building, because
Exactly.
in the background within ASEAN, youth unemployment is actually something that is very real, and if you're able to tackle the capacity building part, that actually is something that could potentially solve that problem. So Tanya, do you need me to repeat the question or
Yes, please.
All right. So for you, right? Actually, do you want to answer both, or do you just want to answer the second one?
I would love to answer the first one, but please remind me of the exact question.
Okay, sure. So moving back to the first one, do you have any core principles or beliefs for people that you hold about impact or people driving impact?
Right. So 2 points on this. The first point, I think to find a subject that resonates most with you, that you're super passionate about. Because if you're trying to make an impact of any sort, a positive impact, you're going to meet with barriers and challenges almost in every step of the way. But if you have that clear why, that clear passion in the subject, that will help drive you through the process to achieve that goal. Second point, this is a famous phrase in the human-centered design community, to fail fast and learn fast. So for you to just get out there and do something and fail, I hope that they fail really quickly so that they can learn from this mini experience and then adapt in an iterative process and just try again. If something works, do that some more. If something doesn't work, change your process. Because a lot of times there's this insurmountable issue of climate change or unemployment that seems too big for you to actually do something. So for you to even start feels so daunting, right? But if you can do something, even tiny thing, and you fail at that, and then you try something and expand on it, I think that's how you can go to your pathway towards an impact.
Interesting. So it seems like the core principles are, first of all, like it needs to resonate. Otherwise, it's going to be challenging to kind of pull you through those sort of situations. But um, at the same time, people shouldn't be afraid to fail fast and iterate on actions that they're trying to take in order to get to the the desired outcome that they're looking for. And the second question, so these core principles are a little bit high level, but on a slightly lower level, slightly more specific, like are there any specific issues either within your country or within the region, like up to you to decide, where there's a matter of urgency, where you would like to see more people attempt to like achieve impact within these areas?
This is what I hope to see expanding more, but also I see it happening at the moment in Thailand and Indonesia and all of the region, is youth empowerment in politics. A lot of times we feel like politics is something so far away and it's for adults who have studied politics and understand diplomacy and all these sacred issues, and we're just youth. How can we impact it? But we're seeing more and more youth today standing up and asking for their rights to rights for themselves, rights for speech, rights for the environment. So I think that's really crucial, because if the politics is really participatory and the youth has a say in it, then it kind of impacts everything else in society.
Fascinating. So what you've kind of highlighted is something at the core of being able to have a positive impact in everything else, and that is participatory politics. And that's something that you hope to see happen more within this region. Yeah, I agree with that. But without going too deep into that, I think one other question that we ask everyone coming onto this series is, deep down inside of you, do you believe that people around you, or like people in general, are looking to create a positive impact? So it's a yes no question, but like it would be nice if you guys could elaborate on why yes or why no.
Tanya, want to go first, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a big yes. That's such a huge yes. And so many people have been saying that, like, oh, people are apathetic about all these different issues. Like, people don't really care to make a change or impact. I disagree. I think everyone wants to make a positive impact. It's a matter of, like Platoon said, they want to make an impact, but maybe they don't know how. And how do you go about, how do you even start? So if you're not sure how you can even do anything, you kind of fall back and don't do it. But if there's people who can show you the way, like your great initiative, Platoon, and you can like guide people, that everyone can be a leader, everyone can do something, I think everyone would be stepping up to do something that's passionate, that means a lot to them.
So your perspective is not so much that the desire is missing, but sometimes the avenue or like the know-how is the thing that is the gap. Okay. Then Fatun, what about you? Like, do you believe people around are trying to make a...
I totally agree with Tanya also. Well, most of people, like, maybe everyone's like, they want to create the impact for their own community. But the problem is, like I told you guys, I mean, some of the people, like, or maybe youth, probably like high school student, university student, they don't know how to start maybe a small actions, or maybe to start projects. Most of them, they don't know how. But what we need to provide them is only the way for them to create a project, so they can change, they can make a change in their own community. Or another way that I can tell you, for the youth, we need also to provide the role model. For example, there is success people in their own community. We need to show them that this inspire story that can motivate them in the future, like to create the community or the project in their own community. Yep, I totally agree with Tanya.
I find it interesting. Like, this question always is very interesting to me, because depending on the person you're talking to, the answers can be very, very different. So I find it very interesting that you guys are on, like, in alignment with this. And on a general level, like I do agree with that sentiment as well. Okay, so we're down to our final question, and this one actually digs into any resources or frameworks or books you guys have read or people that you follow that you actually want our listeners to be aware of and maybe read a little bit more of. So like you can be as comprehensive as you want in this. My personal favorite, like my own journey kind of started when my own supervisor gave the Lean Startup to me. I know it's a very cliche answer at this point, but it is a very powerful book. So if there are any resources or books or any interesting people that you think people should follow, like why don't you guys share who you read or like who you follow? And yeah.
I will volunteer Fatun for this one first.
Okay, I will go first. Well, actually, I would like to suggest a framework based on my experience starting my own organizations and also projects in Aceh. Is create your own organizational culture, because by this, if you implement this in your own community or maybe organizations, you can do whatever you want based on your passions, what you're passionate about, and also try to collaborate with your team, because and believe in your team. This is one thing I really try to implement in the leader, because I try to trust my team. By this in the leader, we have this culture, so we have the power to create our own project in the leader. So I think this is one of the framework that you guys can also apply in your own organizations.
Thanks for sharing that. And Tanya, what about you?
There is a book that I always recommend to people called Creative Confidence. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's by, I think, Tim Brown, Tom Kelly, and David Kelly. These are the co-founders of IDEO, the design company in Palo Alto, I believe. And they are kind of professors in Stanford talking about how there's lots of fear that, oh, I'm not born creative. I'm not born an artist. I'm more of analytical people. I can't think creatively. But this book kind of shatters that whole myth, and that everyone is born creative. Everyone's born a creative genius. But most people, not most people, 98% of the population lose this creative genius because of education or surrounding and believing that they can't anymore. And this book tells you that when you can start something small, learn from it, fail from it, and then start again, and just do small things that expand your creativity. And this can be super impactful, not just in your creative jobs, but in your analytical jobs, in your relationships, and how you conduct your everyday life more creatively.
Actually, I'm curious, like how. Okay, I find the premise of that interesting. I've never read it before. I'm going to check it out. How does creativity? Not that I don't agree with it, but like I'm curious to know what the argument is specifically. How does creativity help within analytical jobs, for example? And like, are there any specific exercises that you want to share within the book? Like one example, so that we maybe get a little bit of a better understanding.
Okay, sure. I will probably butcher the story, but I'll try to paraphrase as much as I can. There was an engineer in, I believe, in MIT who designed the MRI scan machine. You guys know it, right? Where you have to go lie down and then you go through this tunnel, and it's like a big loud noise, and it's dark and something's happening and everything's shaking, that whole experience. And this is obviously very terrifying for kids to go through MRI machines with kids with cancer to go through this process. And lots of kids either had to be medicated a lot before they could go into this machine, or they go into this machine and they fidget and they move because they get scared. So this person, he was applauded for being a genius for designing this MRI scan, but he himself felt that he was a failure because all these kids are trying to use his machine. And so through this creative process, he went to interview kids and parents about their experiences, And then he came up with not a new technology, but he repainted the whole room as, for example, a pirate's cave or under the ocean or a space exploration. And then he gave a set of instructions for nurses and teachers to tell the kids, oh, we're on an adventure now. We're going to go see a pirate ship. So you can't fidget or and you can't make noises because the pirate will hear you. And the kids are like, oh, okay, I'm on an adventure. I'll do that now. And same thing with space explorations. And this actually led to an 88% decrease in medications needed for kids using these machines because they're more excited and looking forward to use it and will follow instructions more.
Interesting. So it's basically like a reframing of wow, I'm just shocked. I haven't heard that anecdote before. That's super cool. Okay, so I completely forgot to ask the audience to kind of contribute some questions, and we actually do have one audience question. So I know that I said that would be the last question, but let's answer one more before we kind of wrap up the session a little bit, if you guys are okay. So the anonymous attendee has asked, how would you suggest to help communities spread their own story instead of relying on organizations to do it for them? So I think let's contextualize it to like the activities that both of you are doing. So Tanya, one thing that you do is that you basically have educational programs that cover a wide variety of like different topics. So how, instead of like focusing on like that organization having a marketing function and say, look at all these wonderful stories, like how do you suggest that these community members actually spread their own story?
I go back to the co-creation process and initial buy-in from the individuals themselves, because we're not trying to sell them anything, right? This is also their own story. And if we involve them from the design and implementation and evaluation process, I think it's easy for people to also get excited about the initiative and tell their friends because it's such a cool thing to them.
Interesting. So like one strategy which basically you guys are doing is kind of organic word of mouth, because the whole intention is to make sure that like this is valuable for them and for them to actually tell other people that this is valuable. Okay. And Fatun, what about you? Like within the context of youth empowerment, like how do you suggest like these individual leaders actually spread their own stories and get their members to spread their own stories instead of relying on the head organization to spread the stories for them?
Sorry, I was mute. Well, I would like to suggest that for people like to collaborate, because this is also powerful, like collaborations and partnerships, because sometimes there's one leader in their own community, but the problem is sometimes we cannot do by ourselves, but what we need is networking and also collaborations with other people. So by these collaborations and networking, so we can build more impactful projects, or maybe like to solve the problem in our own community.
So in a sense, like collaboration is the key to actually spread that story, because through working with other people, like this is where the network kind of works the magic.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So thanks so much. Are there any other last questions from the audience that anyone wants to ask? Bandri, do you have anything that you want to ask that you're curious about, or?
Okay, there are no questions, and I'm still using master
Okay,
right
Bandri
now.
does not have a question. All right. With that, so Tanya and Fatun, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm going to hand the time back to Bandri to close off the session. Bandri?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for any attendees that already came to our 7 webinars today, and thank you so much for our speaker Tanya and Fatun. Really, thank you so much for your session. And it's really cool info and information that we get in this webinar. I hope attendees can get more insightful information from this. And thank you so much for Irshad, our lovely moderator. And thank you so much for Bosch Simstung for helping us making this long journey of 7 series of webinar, and it will be the having the last session of webinar next week. That will be concluding the ordinary person achieving impact online activity by Bosch, and also thank you so much for IAC Berlin that helping us to bringing this opportunity for us to sharing about our value, our vision to making many and more people achieving an impact. Okay, see you guys in the last session. It will be happening in 29 December in the same time, 6 p.m. Singapore time, 5 p.m. West Indonesia time, and at 12 p.m. in Central Europe time. Thank you, everyone, and have a good holiday.